lovely people. And we are here with a very special topic today, which is how to recover after an affair. And so that is not something that I specialize in. So we have brought in a very special guest, which is Gottman Level 3 trained, and that is the Gottman Institute, which is specialized in extensive research in couples and what makes them break up, stay together, get married, all of those good things. And so we have Stanley Mac Cazeau. And how you doing? Oh, wait, you're on mute now.
Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm doing really well. So one of the things that, let me just make sure I got the media tag scrolling over there. So one of the things that a lot of people don't know about outside of the therapy community at the Gottman Institute, I personally use their inventory for couples to find out where there might be some red flags popping up. But explain to me, because you're level 3 Gottman trained, about to be the only Black man in New York City who can take that credential, and now you work specifically with Black couples. But tell me why you chose the Gottman Institute.
So I was in school and I took an elective course, and at the time I was in a relationship with the woman that I am currently with. We're going on 10 years now. And I just enjoyed the fact that it was very practical and it was research-based, meaning that it was an evidence-based approach. They did research for over 40 years, and everything that they've stated have been proven and tested. So to me, I just took home 2 exercises, and me and my girlfriend, we sat down and we just completed them. And since then, just to see how it impacted my relationship, I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing from now on.
Now, you work specifically with Black couples.
Correct.
So what are some of the things specifically around working with Black couples that you see come up a lot?
So ethically speaking, I work with everyone. I cannot selectively just work with one ethnicity. However,
you focus on working with Black couples.
Yes, I focus on working with Black couples. I would say the common issue has really been the inability of most males to effectively communicate, and their unwillingness, which I would say is not true, but it's their inability to learn the terminology to express themselves and to connect with their emotions and allow their partner to meet them in a vulnerable state.
Where do you think that comes from? Because obviously there's a trend going on. What do you think is making it so difficult for some men to show up in relationships as emotionally vulnerable and communicating?
Okay, so we can look at it from 2 different lenses, right? Biologically speaking, the male hormones have driven males to be less verbal and more actionable, where we were a poker face in hopes that if we show our emotions, we risk being bullied or being targeted or being seen less than. So we tend to utilize anger or stone face to kind of show our alphaness and to protect ourselves, right? Because in corporate America or in society, period, the male that is being overly vulnerable and too affectionate is the one that will get picked on and deemed to be at the lowest on the ladder. But in relationships, you're not asking these men to be the opposite of what society has taught them to be. You're saying, hey, express yourself, right? Hey, tell me your true emotions. While at work, it's what results can you get? Like, I don't really care about how you feel. I care about how much sales are you making, how much money you are bringing in. So the males have to be one way at work and in society, but at home have to unlearn all of that and be this approachable, vulnerable, emotional, proper listening selves that they are not accustomed to.
Now, I'm sure it's not just men who show up in the room with communication issues.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the dynamic come up, men are struggling to communicate their feelings for whatever reason. Are women doing a good job of sort of
No.
the process of learning and growing? Because I've seen a lot of couples in sessions and I've seen a lot of communication go down in front of my face that I've been like, this is frustrating to watch. I can't even imagine doing this every single day.
Correct. And the biggest misconception is that men are not in touch with their emotions. Actually, it's false, because we're actually very in touch with them. We just deal with them in a different method than others do. So what I have done is giving the men the terminology to express themselves. Like, I have a whole list of 100 emotions, and when I ask you, hey, how do you feel right now? And I give them this list, for the first time in their lives, they are able to put their emotions into words that can connect with their partner, because it's the first time ever in life that they are able to express themselves to that degree. On the other side, I am also coaching the partner on exactly how to respond to a man expressing themselves. Right? How good of a listener? Exactly. How do you listen? How do you validate? How do you normalize these emotions and not problem solve? Right. And what couples don't realize is 96% of the time, the way you start a conversation is exactly how it's going to end. So
say that again, because I feel like that bears repeating.
Yeah. So I was saying that 96% of the time, the way you start a conversation is exactly how it's going to end. Meaning, if you start the conversation attacking, blaming your partner, then it's their natural instinct to start defending themselves. Too often, we're attacking these men verbally and wonder why they're not listening and why they are just replying and they are defending themselves. They are human beings, just like us. Right? They have their emotions as well. A lot of couples need to learn how to effectively communicate as opposed to just talking.
Now, sometimes I know I've seen Black women who struggle with communicating emotion without anger or without some sort of physical health issue too. They're not great at seeking, help and support in like soft ways and ways that feel good and sort of conducive to a relationship. When you think about those kind of dynamics when they come up, how would you ask sort of people to respond? Like, whether it's the man or the woman in the relationship, when they're struggling to really communicate and voice feelings, what is the right way to listen?
So part of my intake is I have my couples argue for 20 minutes, for about 10 to 20 minutes in our first session.
In front of you?
In front of me.
How do you make them argue?
Believe it or not, most of the time they walk in arguing. Or when I tell them to argue, they are arguing about not knowing what to argue about. So either way, I am seeing the reality of their arguments. And I mainly pay attention to the first 3 minutes, because the first 3 minutes is already going to tell me how this is going to go, how this is going to end, and etc. But once I bring the research in, which is where the Gottman Institute is so amazing to me, is that once I bring that research in and I'm showing the patterns that don't work and the patterns that actually work. So I take them through an example, have them practice it, and then I insert their real life situation and ask them to use those same skills that we just practiced to have this conversation. For example, right? We tend to weaponize our wounds and our trauma and our insecurities instead of moving with compassion. And what I mean by that is if my partner did something that made me feel some type of way, I can go to them and tell them, hey babe, lately I've been feeling invisible and not wanted. I would prefer if we leave the kids with grandma so we can spend some time together because I miss the friendship and I miss spending time with you. That's the compassion. That's the vulnerability aspect. But that's also not easy for the common person. On the other hand, it's easy to say, you're selfish, you don't care about me, you never take me nowhere, you don't care about this relationship, it's all about you. You're communicating the same feelings, but it's not coming across because you're not using the proper steps to communicating it. So what I do with couples, like we spend 3 sessions practicing communication skills because we need that foundation so we can really start talking about the real issues in the relationship, whether that's finance, infidelity, friendship, romance, passion, sex, intimacy. If we don't have the proper skills, these conversations will go nowhere. It will just create this cycle of trauma and of attacks over and over and over again.
Now, so let's talk about cheating, speaking of, right? Because I've seen plenty of couples who are married and in a decent place, but there's been cheating. And then I know people who have, at the first sign of anything being wrong, left their relationship because of cheating. And so I don't know if you think there's a right or wrong answer as to what should tell you to stay or leave, but I definitely know that when people start talking about cheating, it can get really emotional, get really painful and uncomfortable. But one of the things that the Gottman research shows is that cheating starts long before the physical act of
course.
Which begs the question, of which I'm sure for a lot of people who have been cheating on that they have, what opens the door a lot of the time to the cheating? Like what kinds of things even make the idea of being with somebody outside of your relationship start coming up?
Great question. Amazing question and great research. So the statistics say that 70% of people that cheat, they are cheating for an emotional need that went unmet in the relationship. Meaning, hey, I'm trying to get your attention. I'm trying to talk to you, but you're always busy on your phone, so I can't connect with you. I'm trying to tell you how my day is going and what my stress level is, or that, hey, I need to have more fun with you. We need to go out more and spend more time together. But you're not realizing that, or I'm not communicating that in a way that you understand. So they go outside of the relationship seeking that emotional need, which then creates that vulnerability that they have been looking for, right? Which also leads to an attachment. And once that happens, more than likely it's going to lead to a sexual or an intimate connection as well. So the reason why people cheat is not really because they are seeking sex. They are seeking an emotional need that was not met within the relationship.
Now, it's interesting because then it makes most people think that people who are having affairs are probably thinking about leaving. Is that true?
In some instances, like I'm not sure what the statistic is on that.
Sure.
But if you think of divorce, like there's so much that goes into it. If children are involved, if there's a lot of finances involved, or etc. So a lot of people will remain married just so they can keep that comfort zone or their life together and go elsewhere to get those needs met.
Well, I can imagine a lot of people are like, you cheated on me, I'm the victim. And so that part of the conversation about, well, there's this emotional need that I wasn't getting met. That's not the easiest conversation to want to have after somebody's betrayed you and done all this stuff. What kind of steps do you think need to happen before a person starts talking about unmet emotional needs? Because it feels like that kind of betrayal.
Yes, it is. It is.
What are you supposed to do when somebody does that?
Listen, it is a betrayal. Like you betrayed the trust and the commitment of the relationship, and those are the 2 pillars to the relationship. And once those are gone, you have to rebuild everything from scratch. listen, I've been yelled at, I've been screamed at, I've been cursed at, once we started having the necessary conversation, which is the uncomfortable conversations. The way that I preview it is that I explain my process on how we can rebuild the relationship after infidelity. I walk them through the necessary steps ahead of time. Step one is, as the perpetrator or the cheater, you need to be completely honest about everything. You gotta tell every single truth about everything, and you can no longer be engaged in an affair. If you are still seeing that person and still cheating, then as a therapist, I cannot continue the couples therapy.
Wow. So that's
within the Gottman approach, because we have a thorough assessment. So if infidelity comes up or cheating comes up, and you have not come clean about that, and you're still in that mindset, then we cannot continue the therapeutic process. So step one is to be completely honest. Step two is about asking the right questions, right? Too often we're asking, how many times? Where did you do it? What did they do? What did you do? Etc. Like, you're asking all of those details that are going to continue the trauma, continue to prove your narrative versus identifying the why. What's the reason? Why did you cheat? What needs of yours were not being met? Did you communicate that to me? Did I respond to it well? Do you know whether or not I understood what you were trying to communicate? Once we identify that need, that emotional need, then we can work toward fulfilling that. And the third step is, like, you have to understand, as the cheater, your privacy is now gone. You cannot put a time frame on somebody else's healing process. I've had a lot of males tell me, bro, it's been a year. Like, I'm tired of dealing with this. Well, too bad, my man. That's exactly my response. Well, too bad. You did this, and unfortunately, she's not over it yet. You have to deal with it if you want to be with her, right? Of vice versa, because women cheat as well. So it's knowing that you're going to have to give them the necessary time. You're going to have to meet their needs of, I need to know exactly where you are at all times. Or I need you to leave your job or get in or be transferred to a different location. I need you to change your number. I've had clients that had to change their cars because the act took place in the car, right? So it's about meeting those needs and reminding yourself that this is the course and the price for not adhering to the standards of your relationship. But again, it's to also continue to check in consistently on, hey, how is the health of the relationship? How loved do you feel? What can I do better? How can I show up for you more?
Now, it's tough because I can imagine that sometimes people come at you and they go, well, it's easy for you to say that you need to talk like this and do this or whatever. What in your family, in your personal life, do you have experience with cheating and affairs?
Are you asking if I've cheated?
Person, no, or been cheated on or anything? Because you just don't have to answer. Because I'm just curious. I would imagine that people, they're thinking in the moment, okay, I want to use these tools, but there's got to be pushback on the fact that it's been a year and you don't know what it's like and you don't understand like what it's like to be in this relationship. What do you tell people?
But I do understand. I can empathize with how you feel. Like, hey, I've been proving myself for over a year. I've done everything you've asked for, and still you don't trust me. I get that part. I get it. I would be frustrated as well. Now, can you get her part? Do you see where he or she is coming from? Do you understand that one day might be better, but the next day you might take 3 steps back because you may have done something that triggered them? So I am able to level out, to validate, to normalize, and re-engage them into the process. because eventually the memories or the triggers are not as powerful as they used to be. And eventually, like I've had a lot of couples that were dating, partook in infidelity, did therapy, then the next year they were married and are happily married and have changed the landscape of their relationship forever. Their day to day has changed forever because now they're connecting daily, they're being more intentional, they're communicating effectively. And the term that I use is that they're becoming a masterful couple, right? There's a difference between a disaster couple and a masterful couple. Those that are masters are continuously investing into their relationship. They know exactly what to do and they do it, versus those that are freestyling things.
Well, if somebody had an affair, let's say years and years and years ago in a relationship, and one of the partners or both of the partners feel like it hasn't really been addressed, do you feel
that now?
I was going to say, do you feel like it's too late? Like, is it just like, well, the way you said you forgive him and then you said you're moving on? What do you think should happen then?
Those feelings never go away if they were never processed.
Mm.
They can be locked in a box for a while, but eventually they will show. They can be swept under the rug, but eventually you got to change that rug or remove that rug. So if your partner, if you did something that affected the trust, and you've never addressed it and worked actively to restore it, then there's always that fear. Right? If we never talked about it or I'm not aware of what caused it, there will always be that fear. Okay, cool. I did this. Oh my God, are they going to step out again, or etc. You would be living in a life of anticipation and contemplation that infidelity might happen.
How would you know, in your estimation, when it's a good idea to end the relationship after something like that happens?
When is it a good time to end a relationship? You see, the beauty of being a therapist is I never have to make decisions for a couple. I walk them through the necessary step, the necessary discovery. We can talk about their investment into the relationship and their commitment to it. If you feel like your partner is not as committed or not willing to do the work, then you, at some point, you have to ask yourself, and I will ask exactly what is it about you that's allowing this person to treat you in the manner that they are treating you. Because at some point, you got to hold a mirror to yourself and take some type of accountability, because a relationship is a dyadic process. It's a dance between two partners. So your left may affect their right or their left. So this way, your behavior is also contributing to the culture that currently exists.
Well, I wonder, when you're thinking about being treated in a certain way over and over again, it makes me think, is there a difference between people who have one affair come up in their relationship and people who seem to be having multiple affairs over the course of time? Like, when you work with couples, you seem to see, like, when you're talking about the 70 and 30%, what if someone's cheating all the time? Is that different than an affair? Like, how would you look at that?
So there has been a lot of research done on the different types of cheaters or etc. Though the one I subscribe to is that there's two type of cheaters. There's the character cheater, like they're just going to cheat. And in that space, in that phase of their life, they're just a cheater. And that's what they are continuously going to do. Whatever that need is, a partner cannot provide it. They need to find that internally. Correct.
Okay.
On the other hand, there's the wrong place, wrong time. I drank too much and I made a mistake, or something happened and that landed me in this situation. It's not part of my character. It was not pre-planned. I was not being an opportunist. It just happened, and now I feel really bad about it. And I'm telling you because I want to work on that and be honest and earn back your trust. Versus the first one who's an opportunist.
We were talking about going into a true or false little lightning round here, because I know a lot of people say a lot of stuff about what's true, about what should happen, and what people do in relationships. So I'm just gonna throw 5 or 6 things at you, and we're gonna get your quick thoughts on these true or false questions. So here we go. True or false? All men cheat.
False.
Okay. Unequivocally false. Okay.
Unequivocally false. I got the stats to back it up. 40%. 40% of African American men will cheat. 20% of African American women will cheat. However, in a long-term relationship, women are less likely to have the desire to continue to engage in intimacy. And the reason is not because they no longer desire sex, is because us men become very comfortable and no longer partake in the romance and the passion and the behaviors that tend to lead to sex, like less foreplay, less roses, less gifts, or etc. Because I'm your husband and you're my wife, so I feel some type of entitlement over your body.
So it's not a
those are your wifely duties, or
okay,
etc.
so it's not a coincidence. People are just not as excited about it. Okay.
But I usually like to say that first because the ladies start looking at me like I'm crazy, and the guys like, "Hey, get him, Mac." Wait.
So wait till the rest of it.
Exactly.
Also, true or false? People will say that women cheat too, but they're just better at hiding it. When you think about your experience, is it true or false that women are better at hiding their cheating?
I wouldn't say that they are better. It's just that the reason why most people cheat in general is because they're looking for an emotional need, because their partner is not paying attention to them to the degree that they desire. So the male is just not paying attention, so he's not even noticing the changes that are happening around him because he's not focused on his relationship or his lady. So it's not like women are better at cheating. It's just that us males, once we're disengaged, we're just disengaged.
Not paying attention to the details there. Well,
With
okay.
that down.
So true or false, most marriages will include an affair. Like if you're married to the good guy, is there an affair?
I don't have the statistic on that.
What do you think?
Man, most marriages will include an affair. I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
But here's why. Again, like to me, it's the uncomfortable conversations that are not happening, right? We become too complacent in our role, both men and women, and we are no longer engaging in the activities or the behaviors needed to continue to move the relationship and maintain the sanctity that we started with. So, which is why I would say yes.
Okay. Now, true or false? Once a cheater, always a cheater.
False.
Okay. You didn't even hesitate on that one. So there should be forgiveness here, people. Not always and forever. Now, is there ever a situation where you would say once a cheater, always a cheater?
No. But I would help whoever is in front of me to pay attention to the patterns as opposed to the potential. If it was throughout the duration of the relationship, that's a strong pattern.
Yeah.
Exactly what can you do to offset that, and what are they willing to do themselves to offset that? And secondly, like, are you comfortable knowing all of this took place, and are you remaining in the relationship due to comfort level, or because you truly believe that a change can happen? Interestingly enough, most males that call me for couples therapy is due to infidelity. Hey, bro, I'm looking for therapy. I cheated on my wife, and I just want to work on things. And I am aware that couples therapy is needed. Like a lot of men come into this thinking this is just a band-aid, right? Like, oh, I cheated. There must be something wrong with me. I need to go to therapy so I can become a better man. But the truth is, cheating is a choice, right? Whether or not that emotional need is met, you're still deciding whether or not you're going to actively cheat. You could go home and talk. You could go to therapy together so you can find a way to communicate that what's not being met to your partner. You cheated because that's the decision that you made.
So there's no such thing as just impulsively, randomly, because you're both choosing to be in a relationship and choosing to step outside of it. So I guess, fair enough. It's not random. Now, last but not least, true or false, after an affair, it's best to just forgive and forget.
Forgive and forget? Who said that? Is that the advice that is currently being given?
I know I've heard some people say, well, you forgave it. So if you're going to forgive it, you got to put it to bed. Don't keep bringing it up. And I know we were mentioning this before. So that's clearly a false on your end.
Listen, man. Warning to everyone. Beware of these social media performers disguising themselves as an expert, speaking of their experience as the gospel and as the science. I've seen a lot of nonsense on social media, and this is one of them. I actually watched a male who is who calls himself a relationship expert, saying that it only takes 6 months for a man to decide whether or not they're going to marry a woman.
Sure, I've heard something like that.
And he knows that because that's what he did. So therefore, he is the norm.
That's what men do.
Ridiculous. So I wrote back to him like, oh, that's interesting. Can you show me the research or the evidence that backs up this claim? Oh, I don't need that because that's what I did. Okay, brother. But this idea to forgive and forget, that's not true because that's humanly impossible. Because these memories are all going to haunt you. And if you don't find out what need was being met, then more than likely the cheating is going to continue because that person will continuously feel the exact same way that they must go step outside of the relationship to have that need be met. So you can't forgive and forget. You need to go to therapy, process it.
You can't just throw it away. You can't just talk to Jesus about it and then because I've also heard that. Okay, so you got to go do both. Okay, all right.
Come see me first, please.
Well, so thank you so much for clearing up some of those things for us. And so, in all your days of social media advice, what is the sort of most damaging piece of advice you've heard?
So, where do I start? How much time do you have?
Just one.
How do I pick?
There's a lot of bad couples advice out there. I mean, it's one of the things a lot of people talk about. A lot of people are interested in it. But even, for example, I know some people around sex. Mm-hmm. There's a very big taboo around talking about sex, but people have really rich expectations of what sex should be like in a relationship and marriage, and so the advice that I've seen floating around, even just around how often to have sex and what it means to have a happy relationship. I've worked with people who are asexual who are like, wow, I've been told a lot of crazy things by therapists because they really think that there's no way that I can enjoy life. And so I'm like, ooh, sheesh.
That's a fact. Because actually the statistics show couples that have sex once a year versus couples that have sex five times a week are as happy as they could be.
Wow.
Right. So the sex really does not determine whether or not you're happy in your relationship. It's just a matter of meeting your partner's need, whether that's sexual or not.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What, you were going to add something?
No, I was gonna try to answer your question.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
The most damaging thing I've heard. Oh my God. Geez, listen. I have so many in my head that I can't even pick one. But what I'll do is I will name the biggest relationship myth known to humankind. It's this idea that you need to listen to understand and not listen to reply. That is bogus. That is not true. And here's why.
Okay.
Again, the way you started a conversation is exactly how it's going to end. So if you started negatively, your partner is not going to listen because they're going to feel the need to defend themselves. If I walk up to you and punch you in your face, 99% of the time, you're going to punch me back and defend yourself, right?
Right.
Because that's human nature. So in relationships, we're doing the same thing, just verbally. I'm going to verbally attack you and punch you in the face and then get mad that you're defending yourself and saying, why don't you try to understand why I punched you in the face? It's just not realistic. So again, it's knowing how to communicate, and it is on the speaker's responsibility to start the conversation in a manner that leads to an effective solution. So it's not a matter of listening to understand, it's listening to exactly what's being said and allowing your human instincts to determine whether or not you can understand that or you need to reply as a defense mechanism.
Well, listen, I know people ain't gonna get it right after watching this interview, but hopefully they can watch it back a couple of times and try to figure out parts of it. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We always end with a tarot pick of the day. We're talking about affairs and couples and communications. The card deck that I use, because I like to say that this is just the ancestors giving me some messages. It's the Afro Goddess Tarot Arcanus deck. It's by a Black artist whose name is Andrea Furtick. She's from right here on the East Coast. And so let's just see. I'm shuffling my little deck here. We got the 10 of Cups. How appropriate. I mean, you can see it's all love, rainbows, and children. So let me go ahead and just pick up the guide over here so I can tell you what this is. So the 10 of Cups is talking about happy wife, happy life. There's an age-old saying about the blissful actions of divine love. The 10 of Cups is a harmonious vision of everlasting love within a unit. Here a couple caresses with the joy as their children play under the radiance of a rainbow. The 10 of Cups line the beautiful rainbow of happiness as to say that here all your wishes are fulfilled. So this is about alignment, stability, and emotional fulfillment. Relationships that are developed with harmony in both shared joy and love. And there's encouragement to relax and follow your heart, right? So rather than being defensive, try to relax and just follow your heart. And the opportunities that are there are usually there for your highest good, right? So try to pick whatever's best for you. It's a wonderful card to receive from Spirit. So this is about being blessed with love and embracing it with open arms.
Wow. You just described my relationship.
Well, good. See, the ancestors don't fail us. Also, with that being said,
I have a question about these cards because that was so accurate. So it mentioned babies. Were the sex of the baby provided?
Is there a sex of a baby provided?
Yes.
I mean, listen.
Pick another card, see.
I don't claim to tell the future, but let me see, because you seem like you got
ancestors. Come on, ancestors.
Yeah, it feels like it's talking about your relationship.
Yep.
And what do you get? So this card is the 4 of Cups. If you can see her, it's a woman card, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a girl card, but what you see is an offering.
Okay.
She's just not taking it yet, which means that there's gonna be choices offered to you, but you have to discern which one is the best based on what it is that you really value. Value.
That's actually accurate because I have a decision to make at some point this weekend. So
What was
Again,
it? Hopefully, right. I was gonna say, there's no way I don't claim to know the future. I can only say what's going on right now, unfortunately. But I hope for the best for both the baby conversation and whatever decisions you have to make, because you've definitely helped make enough choices for a lot of couples so that they can help themselves. So you deserve a couple of lucky things coming your way. And so hopefully you can join us again to talk about some other couples related stress that comes up, because it's just a tip of the iceberg. There's sex issues, communication issues, all sorts of things that can come up. So we might have you back.
I would love to.
All right. Well, tell us where we can find you. I know that we have your social media here, but if people want to see you for couples therapy, if they want to find one of your courses or trainings or workshops, where could they find you?
Yeah, so my website is therapyisforeveryone.org. Therapyisforeveryone.org. That is the name of my private practice, as well as my mission to destigmatize the idea of therapy in the communities of color. So if you need me, that's where you're going to find me.
We appreciate you. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Join us here Thursday nights for another episode of People Always Ask. And once again, Mac Stanley Cazeau, you are here helping the folks.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, and we hope that y'all can recover after any sort of affair that might have touched your life. Have a great night.